it was just heartbreaking, just like watching my whole life fall apart essentially in front of me, you know. And I try, like, it's difficult with a mental health kind of condition to explain to people just how life changing it is. Like, honestly, I went from exercising every day, I was gigging, I was working, I was, you know, reading all the time, and then skip like a month and a half later, and I'm just a nobody. I've lost all of my enjoyment to everything, and yeah, so I think that was the worst moment. Is that moment of realizing it.
Hey everyone, I'm Sean O'Connor, author of the Depersonalization Manual, and today I'm speaking with Dave Budd, a professional musician from Plymouth in the United Kingdom. Dave had quite a frightening experience with depersonalization disorder, which unfortunately affected his ability to play gigs, work, and socialize. But thankfully, Dave has since made a full recovery, and Dave is with us today to tell us about his experience with and recovery from depersonalization disorder. Dave, you're very welcome to the channel. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, this is really awesome. Really awesome.
Yeah, great to have you on the channel. Dave, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm a 25-year-old, as you said, musician from Plymouth. I also I chef like a couple hours a week as well. I'm quite a hobbyist. I like to read and watch movies and hang out with my friends and you know all the normal stuff really. Now now that we can do it again, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So you're a gigging musician as well, right?
Yeah. So I'm gigging full time now. So I'm gigging anywhere between 3 and 5 times a week, really. Yeah.
Nice,
So it's going really
nice.
well.
What kind of stuff do you play?
So it's a bit of a weird one. I go up and down depending on like what kind of gigs you've got, you know. Like now that I do the poppier stuff more than I'd like to, I'm getting like a lot more work from it, you know. But
Yeah,
a couple times a week I'll get to play what I want to play and like play some folky country kind of stuff and yeah, just really love it, man. Really enjoy it, and even the gigs where I've got to sell my soul a little bit, I really enjoy it still. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's absolutely
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. Nice one. I know we've talked about this before. I used to be a professional musician myself. I used to do a lot of pub
Yeah,
gigs,
yeah.
and yeah, it was a major thing for me as well. Was finding the balance between playing the songs that I wanted to play and playing the tunes that people actually came to a bar
Oh,
to hear.
100%.
You
Yeah,
know.
100%. There's so many musicians I know, and they'll be like, "Oh, I've not got a lot of work at the moment." I was like, "You need to sell out. That's what you need to do. You need to play exactly what people want to hear."
Yeah. Put on the radio. Listen to the top 10 and just start making notes, like you
Yeah,
know.
exactly, man. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with DPDR? How did it start for you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, to be honest. Like in hindsight, I have a better understanding of it than I did like at the time. I thought it all kicked off in February last year, so that would be 2022. But the more I thought about it, the more I understood it really. I actually started getting quite bad symptoms the summer before. So I was at work one day and was feeling a bit like rough and stuff, and my head chef at the time was like, "Oh man, you should go home and just like chill out and take it easy." So I went home and I did a COVID test. And bear in mind, I was feeling a bit ropey throughout the day, but nothing. What should I say, like foggy or anything? I wasn't feeling like that. But then I did a COVID test, and I can remember seeing the red line on the lateral flow tests, if you remember those, and like my whole vision was just like weird, you know what I mean? And everything just went loopy and weird. But so immediately that night, I was Googling symptoms and stuff like that all over COVID and things like that. But one of the big things with COVID, obviously, was brain fog. So I put all of it down to that. I was just like, oh, anybody asked me what COVID was like, I'd say, oh, the actual thing itself wasn't too bad, but it's the brain fog. I was just anxious and felt like I wasn't really here and like felt just spaced out and didn't really feel a connection to like my friends and family. And everyone was like, that sounds absolutely dreadful. And I did not experience that at all. And I'm like, yeah, it was awful. Anyway, so I started getting better from COVID and things were looking really good. As again in hindsight, like that period between summer and winter and was actually in hindsight like pretty self-destructive. I was quite I was drinking quite a bit because I just realized now I was just so numb still. I was like looking back on it, I was having a lot of problems with my girlfriend, now fiance. I having quite a few problems with her because I just couldn't really connect to her. Do you know what I mean? So I was having a lot of things like that. Anyway, so January came around. So this is January last year, and I sorted everything out. I started reading a lot more, exercising loads. I was eating really well. I was doing a lot more music. I was really trying hard. And so January and February, I was doing really well. And I had like next to no symptoms at all. Like actually no, like just genuinely zero symptoms, 100%. But then it was like late February of last year. And I can remember I didn't sleep hardly at all the night before, because I had a gig, I think, and I think I went out for a few drinks in the evening afterwards. So I had hardly any sleep. I was pretty hungover as well. And in the morning, I went for a swim, like I was doing like every day back then.
Mm.
And then I was sat in work, and I can remember being quite hungover, quite tired. And then my assistant manager ran in to the office, and he was like, "That's it, guys. World War III's kicked off. Like, get ready. Like, call home. All of this stuff." And like, it really scared me. Like, I can remember I had a little bit of a panic situation, and then all of these feelings came back, like all of them, and I focused on it so heavily because I was like, "I'm definitely not sick. Like, I'm not definitely not sick. I've been like." All of this stuff. I was like, there's no way this is COVID. Like, this is definitely something different. And
So what? So,
yeah,
so
that was.
sorry, Dave. So what the head chef was talking about was Russia
Oh,
invading
sorry. Yeah,
Ukraine.
yeah. It was Russia
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Ukraine,
sure.
and its effects on us essentially,
Yeah.
and obviously just the empathy and all that stuff, man. It's just horrible. But I don't know. It's like the situation's obviously terrifying and still is terrifying. But what terrified me the most was the returning of all of these. Like my head just literally felt as if someone just like kind of grabbed my personality and put it behind like a locked door for the evening. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, just like, what the fuck's going on? Like, sorry, I don't know if I can swear on these things, man. Sorry, my bad. But
I think it's okay.
yeah, like, but yeah, I was like, what is going on? This is just insane. You know what I mean? And then the more I focused on it, the worse it got. And then yeah, the months following that was just really intense, like super intense. So yeah, yeah, that was kind of how it came about. I think definitely.
Yeah, yeah. It's always interesting that like these different kind of circumstances can often kind of build up, and then something specific might just kind of tip it over the edge and just
Yeah,
get that, and your body and brain just kind of go to DEFCON 1, and it's like, okay, we're going to full fight or flight
and this
response.
is it.
But Matt,
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah. But Matt, I remember like when that was happening, like sitting sitting in bed at like 1 o'clock in the morning and watching a live stream of footage of a battle happening outside the Chernobyl power reactor, like or
yeah,
the
man.
Chernobyl station, the sarcophagus, like and like what and also, and I had recently watched the TV show Chernobyl, so I was
Yeah,
looking at
so
this going
all the
like,
effects, everything, man. Yeah,
how is this happening? How could this possibly be happening?
yeah,
Like why is
terrifying.
Chernobyl even in the vernacular of something that could be a problem again?
Yeah,
And
literally, it doesn't take
yeah,
a genius, man. You're like anywhere but there, guys. Like, let's just move
yeah,
it down the road at least. Like, it's
yeah,
so terrifying.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I'm
And
glad you understand. It was so weird.
oh,
Like,
for sure, for sure. And also just in the general context of watching like those daily reports from the Ukraine and seeing what was happening to these towns and villages and Kiev, like was just horrendous. Like but I can completely understand how something like that and the phrasing of like World War III has kicked off would really stress you out. Like
yeah,
so
I think it was when he kind of ran into the office, and because I've never been one to watch the news a lot, to be honest. Um, I've always stayed away from it. So I didn't really know what was going on at all. And then I'd be walking past TVs or whatever, and I'd see like, oh, Russia's like in Ukraine, blah blah blah. And then, as I said, my assistant manager just ran in and said it, and I was like, oh my god. And then I was googling things, and it was like, oh, it's really happening. Like, and the talk of nuclear war was really really potent at the start, and thankfully that's gone down quite a lot. But yeah, I think yeah. So I think it kind of that made me really anxious and really, really anxious at the time. And you just worry for all your friends and family, and you worry about like all those friends and families over there. You know what I mean? You worry about like everything. And I think it was just a bit overwhelming at the time, And but in hindsight, I think the actual anxiousness for that situation in like I don't know, kind of almost got overshadowed by like, oh wait a minute, like I can't think straight, like nothing's working anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was a bit of a weird start, to be honest. Like I think I struggled at the start a little bit as well because I was feeling a bit guilty because I kind of felt like, especially of all the things. This is why reading things online is so dreadful, is because I come across people who'd be like, oh, I've lost family members. Of this happened, and I'm there like, oh, I read the news one day and it was really, really bad. Do you know what I mean? I felt a bit of guilt. Do you know what I mean? But um, but it's just the way what happens. I suppose it can be anything.
Of course, and at the end of the day, it's essentially a panic attack that kicks it off, like and a panic
Yeah.
attack can be from watching the news, it can be from drinking too much coffee, it can be from
Mhm.
being worried about public speaking, it can be any number of things, but the effects are kind of what we deal with after that initial incident. I know you mentioned things like kind of uh, things like brain fog and things like you're not really there. Dave, can you tell us just a bit more about the symptoms you were experiencing? What symptoms in particular you found troublesome?
Yeah. To be honest with you, mate, I think looking back on it, I probably had every symptom under the sun. Like honestly, though, every day was different. Like the biggest ones by far, the ones that upset me the most. So my head literally, I had a constant headache all the time. My and I had this thing as well, which I've later found out is quite common with like migraines and stuff like that. But I touched the top of my head and I'd get a sharp pain in my head, and obviously I'm thinking tumor and I'm thinking all this stuff. But apparently it's what a doctor said to me. It's quite common with migraines. Your head can be quite sensitive to the touch and stuff. And honestly, not had anything like that since. So so it was quite. But yeah, the brain fog was a big one. I could never like keep my head straight. Concentrate. That I lost my inner monologue as well, which was like a really weird thing to explain to people. But like suddenly I just found myself like I'd be doing stuff, but I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just there. You know what I mean? I lost enjoyment in everything. Music didn't even sound like music to me anymore. It just sounded like you know mental people just making sounds. Do you know what I mean? Um, I kind of lost my connection with my friends and my family. They didn't really seem like connected to me at any like I knew they were like I knew like my best friend, for example, but I wouldn't know why he was I wouldn't feel it. um what else was there? My physically I had like my neck and my shoulders like were like just constantly felt as if someone's just like cranked them up and tightened them. What else was there? Honestly, I probably had everything under the sun. Like every day, I was googling something different, man. Like, yeah, there was so many different symptoms to it. Forgetfulness, my memory was just gone. I'm a forgetful guy on the best days, man. But like Jesus Christ, I was constantly forgetting things. Like I had no idea what was going on. Um, yeah, and just complete, yeah, just separation. Just felt like because obviously there's the depersonalization, there's also the derealization. I feel like i I experienced more of the latter one because yeah, everything just felt fake and weird, and yeah, just in a constant state of stress and worry, and like it was a weird one because it was like a mixture of being like I just constantly thought I was going to die. I was just literally like I'm dying every 2 seconds, and it's weird saying that when I felt that way for 6 months. Do you know what I mean? At least, do you know what I mean? I was feeling that way for ages and ages. Like, yeah. So I think those were the main ones. I'm sure if I you know really thought about it, I'm sure there'd be more. But yeah, honestly, anything. Every symptom that people have experienced, I swear I experienced it. So every day there was a new one. Do you know what I mean? 100%.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so all of those would have been very, very familiar to me back in the day as well. The neck and shoulders thing, man, in particular, like, because that was one of the things I remember getting like maybe 2 or 3 weeks into it, where I was experiencing like really intense pain in my neck and my shoulders, and like I remember like I literally sat in front of like the couch watching TV, and my mother was sitting on the couch, and she was just like would like massage my neck and shoulders, and I was like just panicking though, because I was thinking like there's something wrong with my spine, like I have developed spinal cancer, there's
Of
some
course, yeah, yeah,
awful disease, like and it's one of these things where like as you recover, you kind of just look at it from a practical point of view, and you think like that that's tension. That's neck and back tension that's happening because
yeah.
of anxiety. Same with the tension headaches. But my God, when you're going through it first, you are just jumping to the worst possible conclusions.
Oh,
I have
it's
some
so
wasting
detrimental,
disease, and
honestly. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, you're so right. Like now, if someone came to me and was like, "Oh man, like I'm so stressed, and my neck and my shoulders are really tense," I'd be like, "Oh, well, that's definitely linked together. You can sort that out. You can definitely." Whereas when I was in there, I thought I was allergic to stuff. I don't know, like the complete, like nothing in hindsight, nothing I thought made sense, but it took up my day. It really did, and I honestly, like there was a rogue case of like brain shrinkage or something like that in America, and I was like, that's what I've got. Do you know? I was like, brain shrinkage, like that makes no sense. I'm
yeah,
25 years old. You know what I mean? Um, I've never had any symptoms of anything like this in the past. Like, but for some reason, the anxiety kind of mindset will give you like anything it can to keep you there. It's almost like it wants you to be there. Do you know what I mean? And instead of, as you said, instead of being like, oh, obviously I've been stressed the last few days, this DP stuff, obviously my neck and my shoulders are going to be tense. Instead, as you said, it's like, oh, I've got a muscle disease or like something like that. It makes
yeah,
no sense
yeah.
whatsoever.
It's
But
brain shrinkage. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I've had to think about it. And it's brain shrinkage. Like sure,
yeah, exactly.
I thought I had Alzheimer's. Like I was
Yeah,
25 years old.
honestly, man, yeah, I've honestly thought I've had every disease under the sun. Like, I even paid money to get a private blood test. I'm in the UK, and obviously we've got the NHS here and stuff.
Hmm.
But every doctor was like, "Mate, you're fine. Just calm down." I was like, "No, that can't be right." I was like so close to. The only reason I didn't do it in the end is because my fiance and my family and all that stuff were like, "Please don't waste your money on this." I was going to pay for a private MRI scan. Bougie, like, and yeah, luckily, even the doctors that I was paying were like, "Yeah, you shouldn't really be getting one of these. Like, you know what I mean? You don't need one." But yeah, I got blood work done. I got everything under the sun, and the problem is as well, which is so true when you really when you go to the doctors and stuff, things can come up that you can like. Oh, sorry, my dog's just got the dog.
That's all right.
That's not. You're okay. You're okay.
You
You're okay.
show us. Can we
Yeah,
see
there
him?
she is.
Oh, look at her.
Yeah,
What's her
she's
name?
not as nice as she looks. Maya, she's called. Yeah, she was
Maya.
my girlfriend's dog when I first met her, and she's awesome, but she's just so
Yeah.
reactive. Honestly, man. Well, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry about that, dude.
that's
What I
all
was gonna
right.
say, but yeah, so yeah, it was like everything you could possibly think I had, basically everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
constantly. As I said, I pay for blood work, and oh yeah, that was the other thing I was going to say is that like things can come up, and when you get blood work, for example, I was slightly vitamin D deficient, right? Slightly vitamin D, and this is in the winter, right? This is, as I said, this is like, like February kind of time, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, everything's good. You're slightly vitamin D deficient." So I'm googling vitamin D deficiencies, and it's like, "Oh, brain fog," and I'm like, "Sorted." You know what I mean? And I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah,
I think it's just a constant search for that. Like, you've got this. This is the remedy to that. There you go. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
obviously never came. Do you know what I mean? So,
Of course, of course. The thing you mentioned as well, Dave, about feeling that disconnection from music as well. My God, I because like I love my music, and I love
mhm.
film, I love literature, I love art, and that was for me one of the most. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was like all that stuff. You can't you can't you can't enjoy 5 minutes of that anymore. That's gone. Like, you know. And what it felt like for me
Terrifying.
was that it was almost like the circuit in myself that was able to take pleasure in listening to a Pink Floyd tune was gone. So that circuit's gone now. And now if you listen to this music, it's going to sound weird. It's going to be frightening, like the opposite of what you want to feel when you listen to a band that you love. You are now frightened of this. And I remember just being thinking like this is and 2 weeks ago I could listen to it and love it, and now it was just like the
Yeah, that's what
unfairness
scares me,
the
man.
unfairness of it was just brutal, you know.
Yeah, you're so right. And as you know, I went to that camp with Richard Thompson. So I,
Right.
I Richard Thompson was like everything for me, man. Like still is one of my favorite musicians of all time.
Yeah. So
Um,
just for people watching the channel, Dave, tell us about Richard Thompson. So Richard Thompson is
oh yeah, so Richard Thompson's a British folk musician. I say folk musician. He does a bit of everything, but
yeah,
he was the guitar player in the band Fairport Convention in like the 70s and the 60s and stuff. Um, and he runs a camp called Frets and Refrains in America. And me and my fiance got tickets to go and watch him. Um, and he talked about the camp whilst we were there. And my fiance was like, "Oh, you need to sign up to do it. You need to sign up to do it." And I was like, "I can't afford it. It's like a million miles away. It's a super expensive camp anyway." They did a scholarship option, and I applied for it and got it. So I was like super chuffed, super chuffed. But obviously, this had to happen, like the month I find out about it. But yeah, I was terrified because so like on Spotify, I was in the top 0.05% of this guy's listeners, right? In the year 2021, right? The guy, like
right.
I was big on the guy, and then skip ahead 3 weeks, and I can't even hear his voice. It trips me out, you know. I'll just be like,
Mm.
oh my god, like I can't think about him right now. I can't think about his music. Can't think of anything like that. I can't think about because I don't know, it literally just sounded like the music was just so hollow, like and nothing made sense anymore. Whereas now, God, man, I'll never forget when I listened to a Richard Thompson song and enjoyed it for the first time in like months, and man, it was just like a whole. It was. I wish I had a video of my previous self of me enjoying that song again, man. Like, just so I could just everything's going to be fine. But that was the biggest one for me was music, definitely. Like, especially because I love folk music, man, like old folk music. You really have to be like, you really have to pay attention to it when you're listening to it, and it's not normally the most optimistic type of music either. So it was just a complete no go for someone suffering, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy it came back for sure. Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, and it's real like storytelling music as well. So, you know,
Yeah,
you have to be present in performing it in particular as well. Like, you know,
most
that's
definitely. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what am I asking, Dave? What was so in the whole experience was what was the lowest point in it? Was there any time in particular that
Yeah.
sticks
I
with
mean,
you or that you
to be
remember?
honest, like when I look back on all of the different memories and stuff now, um, I think of it more of a comedy. To be honest, I think it's funny. Obviously, in the time, it is the worst thing ever. But my yeah, again, my girlfriend, I keep calling her my fiance, um, was talking to me about it the other day, and she was like, yeah, what, like, tell me about it. There's so many times I look back on like that I laugh at now because I'm like, oh, that's hilarious. But there are a couple that I'm like, that was just truly horrible. There was one time I was on the phone to 111, which is like a non-emergency uh, call line, and they called me back and they were like, yeah, to be honest, like I can't see anything wrong with you. Like from what you've told us, I think it's an anxiety problem. And my friend Mikey called me. He's one of my best friends, and he called me and he was like, "Man, like everyone's worried about you. Like, I really hope you're okay." And he's like, "Let me know if you need anything." And I can remember he was like, "Oh, if you want, we can go for a coffee, like in the morning." And you know, I'll take you certain to eat and stuff. He's like, as I said, everyone's worried about you. And I think it was the combination of feeling sorry for myself, obviously, and scared, anxious, and also just the thought that everyone was aware of it and everyone was like worried for me and stuff. It really made me feel like, oh, they need to be worried for me. Do you know what I mean? And so I said to him, man, I can't leave the house. I can't go and get a coffee. He was like, I can come over. I was like, no, I just don't want to see anyone. I just literally just want to be on my own. And I just want this whole thing to blow over. I want to forget about it. Do you know what I mean? And it was just such a horrible moment because that week as well, I cancelled like 3 gigs and like not even just the enjoyment of doing gigs, but the money I lost as well, like not going to those. I called in sick for work for the week. Um, it was just a really dreadful time looking back on it, and I was just constantly in a state of fogginess, and it just felt like uh, uh, the way I tried to explain it to people, and I only really realize now that not everyone has experienced it. But whenever I get really stressed, like say I find out something's happened at home or something like that, and I get really stressed. There's a moment of fogginess there, and it's just like, oh god. But obviously, you're so stuck in the moment, you just go about it. But just being in it all the time is just horrible. Like it's just the worst thing ever. And yeah, so that would definitely be the worst moment. It's just sat in my garage, just like so jealous of myself like a couple months back. Do you know what I mean? I just felt like I lost everything, and obviously I got this acceptance for the scholarship in America. I was like, I don't want to go to America, man. I don't even want to go to the shops down the road. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to do any of that. And it was just heartbreaking, just like watching my whole life fall apart essentially in front of me, you know. And it's difficult with a mental health kind of condition to explain to people just how life changing it is. Like honestly, I went from, as I said, like mid to late February, I was exercising every day, I was gigging, I was working, I was, you know, reading all the time, and then skip like a month and a half later, and I'm just a nobody. I've lost all of my enjoyment to everything, and yeah, so I think that was the worst moment. Is that moment of realizing it, sat in that garage that time. I often think about that. To be honest, it was a really really crappy time, but I'm so happy it's over. You know,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, for sure. That's a really, really good way of putting it as well, Dave. It's like watching your life fall apart in front of you, and
Yeah,
kind of realizing that like this is happening, and there's nothing I can do about it. At least at the start, when you think there's nothing you can do about it.
yeah,
I mean, I was the same. I was like, I mean, I had finished college. I was like, I wanted, I was a professional musician. I was gigging all the time. I was kind of starting to move into my career in film, which was kind of just really starting to kick off. I was doing master's degree in film studies, and then it's just like I hit a wall, and
yeah,
all of that stopped, and I had to move home with my parents, and I couldn't leave the house, and I can't go to the bathroom because I have a panic attack if I look in the mirror. It's just like, and just kind of what, but that it's that thing of like watching it happen and being like, what, like
yeah.
what,
So cruel,
where,
you know?
it's so cruel. It's so cruel.
Yeah,
And also not being able to verbalize it as well. You know,
yeah,
be able to kind of describe what's happening, and kind of and also worrying that in the description of it, what you're describing makes you sound like you're going crazy, and maybe I am going crazy. And it's um
yeah. That's a whole thing as well. Yeah, that's a whole
yeah,
other thing. Definitely.
yeah. And
Yeah.
actually, that which brings me to my next question, Dave. At what point did you find out it was called depersonalization? Like, was it through forums or through Google or through a doctor, or how did you find that out?
So yeah, so I basically my blueprint of kind of going through this was all wrong. Like nothing that I came across, looking back on it, did I approach the right way. I went around everything the wrong way. But I heard the term depersonalization from a YouTube video. It wasn't your YouTube video, unfortunately. It was this other one, and I was like, brilliant. Whatever I've got, I've now got a symptom called deper. I didn't think it was the problem I had. I thought it was a symptom of another health condition or something like that. Um, and so that really sucked. And then I was fortunate enough, like a month later, to come across a couple of your videos, and in the videos that it was different. Because it wasn't like someone who I find a lot of the videos of people that haven't experienced it and are talking from a professional standpoint. Um, and then you get the people that have experienced it and they aren't necessarily reassuring, if that makes sense. And then I came across yours and you talked about conditions that like health anxiety and talked about like things like and you also linked it back to like drug use and stuff because you something I haven't said as well. I used to smoke every day. I used to smoke weed all the time, and I never really put two and two together, to be honest. I never really thought about it. But through your videos, kind of, I saw that kind of I saw that actually that's the primary problem. It's not, you know, I haven't got like a brain issue and that's making me feel depersonalized. Depersonalization is the problem, do you know what I mean? So then when I started kind of seeing that, and obviously I went and got your book straight away. And yeah, it was just a massive turning point. Like I'd say in the first week of doing that, I went from like 100% personalized all the time down to like 80. Doesn't sound like a lot, but like just in the first week of realizing and learning and kind of things like that, like I swear, like with it all, I've came out with a bloody qualification in this kind of stuff, man. I swear, like I really hope I have anyway. It's a lot of research, but definitely, yeah. So I first heard the term, like, yeah, on YouTube, whatever. But then, kind of understanding it a lot more was definitely down to your stuff, you know, that I saw, and reading about it and learning about it and stuff. So, yeah, thank God for that, mate, because I'd be so lost without it. I'm sure, man. That's why I wanted to email you and say thank you, you know, and just be like, because honestly, mate, it would have been dreadful. I'm sure it would be going on for years. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely years. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm delighted that the material was so useful. And so can you tell us a bit more about how how the recovery process felt then, Dave? Was it a kind of was it you said so you said it kind of dropped down to like 80%. Did that kind of like consistently kind of drop down after a while, or was this and at what point did you start kind of getting back to your normal routines? Also, did you keep working through the whole experience?
Right, yeah. So I had in the first period, I want to say it was about 3 months or so after kind of having it, I was like void to the world. Like I was literally just sat at home all day, every day, not doing
Okay.
anything. Wasn't working, wasn't gigging, wasn't doing anything. If I was working, it was like once a week max. And my guys at work were like, I don't know what's wrong with him. He's just, do you know what I mean? It was a bit embarrassing. Lost a lot of money. I was like quite financially unstable for a little while. And then, yeah, so I started finding your stuff and then kind of started going back to work, gigging maybe once a week, you know, not pushing it too much. Um, to be honest, I went through a bit of a self-destructive recovery phase as well, while I was kind of testing the DP to see how bad it could get all the time. It was a really weird time. I can remember in your book you talk about Nine Inch Nails. You say, yeah, you should listen to music as much as you can. Um, and you were like, maybe not things like Nine Inch Nails in particular. And my friend Lewis turned around and he was like, "Oh, Dave, if you want, we can go and like, you know, like smoke some weed and go to a Nine Inch Nails concert." I was like, "That sounds great. Yeah, sign me up, man." And that was a very intense
It's
experience,
amazing.
and I would not recommend that to anybody suffering. That was the worst, honestly. But in my
Oh
head, I
dear.
was thinking, so I'm so terrified of this stuff. If it is a health condition, then surely these things would trigger the next part of it. If that, even saying out loud makes no sense. But back in the day, that was exactly how I was feeling, you know. And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
obviously, lo and behold, I was just really anxious the whole time, which would make complete sense. So yeah, I went through this bit of self destructive kind of period, and then but yeah, so I started really knuckling down your book. I want to say maybe about it. It wasn't too long after I came back from America, so maybe like you know September maybe. Um, as I said, it was just like it was almost like your book was like the guide to everything, but it felt like I almost needed to understand that. For like, I don't know, it was just like there was still a part of me that was convinced it was something else. Do you know what I mean? And the second I got rid of that, everything changed. And I think actually paying attention to your book like makes you realize like, no, if your doctor says you're fine, you say I'm fine, everyone, like my friends say I'm fine, then I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like if everyone's saying I'm fine, then obviously whatever's going on, you have to look to the most likely solution. That was exactly what it was. You know what I mean? So yeah, then I started. A big thing for me was diet. You know, like I even notice now that when I eat really badly for a week or so, I feel a bit like, oh god, not like depersonalized or derealized in any stretch, but I do feel a bit groggy and a bit crap. You know what I mean? Um, where because I know you said about how you like didn't want to eat at all. Whereas eating's like always been like a big comfort for me, you know, like I'll eat when I'm stressed and stuff, which is like the worst. So I was eating the worst foods all the time, and it was making things 10 times worse. Like I had no clarity whatsoever. So yeah, so obviously there was that, exercising more, spending time with friends was a big one, not doing drugs, not drinking as much, you know, just looking after yourself essentially is was the key for me. And then man, like it was almost as if clockwork, just literally over time, just went down and down, and then yeah, now I'm completely void of it. Yeah, no need
That's
for it now.
great. That's
Yeah,
great
yeah,
to hear. So you went over to the States to Richard Thompson's boot camp, right?
yeah.
So how was that kind of, because you're still kind of in the middle of it at this stage, but you get on a plane and you go over to the States.
Intense, very intense. Yeah, but it was good though. I really enjoyed it. I found actually like so I tried doing a bit of travel, not so much traveling, but like going to places I've never been and stuff. Because if you remember, we talked before, and you were like, yeah, just try and get out and about as much as you can, and like
Mm.
get ready for it. So I was feeling pretty good the week leading up to getting on the plane. And then the night I was meant to go, I was like warm, and then like everything was weird and foggy and strange, which was to be expected. To be honest, I was just that little bit more anxious than I wanted to be. Um, so I was pretty spaced out the entire time. I'm not gonna lie, um, but there were such moments of like, and luckily I was just really able to enjoy the music over there. Like I can remember, there was this one lady called Carol. We had that. There was like an open mic night. Bear in mind, right? Rich and Thompson was there, but to anyone who like kind of quite into their folk music, like there was like Martin Simpson there. There was Happy Traum there. Gretchen Peters was there. Sloan Wainwright was there. It was like a massive collection of amazing musicians all there,
Mm.
and you just got to learn from them. And so I was pretty spaced out whenever I was alone and thinking about it. Whenever I was with these people, or wherever I was getting taught, or whenever I was just so interested in whatever was going on that I was fine. And and then yeah, so the experience itself, I wouldn't have changed it for the world. I'm actually happy I experienced it the way I did, you know, because I can't wait to go back there completely DP free, which is like not off the cards as well, maybe next year or something, you know. But it was definitely strange, and I got COVID whilst I was over there as well, so that didn't help with anything. But yeah, because it's always so much worse whenever I got ill. I can remember, but obviously when you're anxious and stuff, and your body's stressed anyway, your likelihood of getting ill is so much more. But yeah, so yeah, it was a really good experience, man. I really enjoyed it, but yeah, I definitely was still suffering a little bit here and there at the time. I've got to say though, you obviously with your book comes audio files, you know. Your pep talk was on repeat almost the entire time I was over there, and it just anytime I felt a bit stressed, I just put it on, and oh my god, it just sorted me right out, man. It's so good to have. I reckon to anybody watching this, obviously, the pep talk is invaluable. Honestly, it's absolutely brilliant. Um, the rest of it's obviously brilliant as well, but I reckon I've probably had about 3,000 hours of playtime on that one little track alone.
Are,
I'm
are,
not
are
gonna.
you are you in my .02 top Spotify listeners?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. 100%. You're killing me there. 100%.
Brilliant.
But yeah,
But
so yeah, the rest of the trip was awesome. Obviously, so my girlfriend came over and met me as well,
yeah.
and I proposed to her over there, and she said yes, which was awesome.
Right.
But yeah, as I said, I was a little bit spaced out. But as I said, if you're talking that time in the garage, say that's 100% spaced out, depersonalized. When I was over there, I was probably around 50, maybe 40%. It was still there, but I could easily work my way around it. So
Yeah.
it wasn't too bad. Really enjoyed it. It was really awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, really, like, I think it's important to give yourself credit as well for kind of for getting on the plane and doing it. Like, I mean, I mean, for me as well, I had, because in the middle, actually towards the start of my experience with DPDR, I went over to a family wedding in Scotland, and just had it was just horrendous. Like, because I still had no idea what was happening.
Yeah,
And but I remember having a fear of like flying, and a fear of traveling, and a fear of being in places I didn't know
yeah,
for a long time throughout the experience. But I eventually like got myself back onto planes and kind of traveling, going abroad and stuff. And I remember how tough it was at first, but you just have to do it. You just have to get on the plane, get on the train, go do the thing. But the fact that you went over and did, like, a boot camp, and you were kind of networking, meeting new people, and then proposing to your girlfriend is it's great. Like, what better way to take all of your attention away from anxiety and DP than
yeah,
an adventure like that,
yeah. Well, that was my mindset, and I. Sorry, my dog's such a funny. Lay down, sweet. Um, yeah, no, it was awesome, and as I said, I was a bit weird with it. It's almost as if, like, when you're a kid or whatever, and you got a bruise or something like that, and you're constantly just prodding it, just like checking on it all the
Right.
time. That was almost what
Yeah.
I was like with it. I was like, I just wanted to push myself like as far as I could into it. I was throwing myself into it, and I think a part of it was kind of not being trying to convince myself that it won't get any worse than being scared, if that makes sense. So when I was over there, I was constantly like, you know, I was just doing whatever I wanted to do, whatever I knew that the person before DP would want to do. I just did
Yeah.
it, and just kind of told myself, see, nothing bad happens. You're fine every time. You know what I mean? But it just takes
Yeah.
a long time to know that. It really does. It takes a really long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go any further, I need to throw in a quick disclaimer. I love Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah,
I have
oh
nothing.
God, they're intense live though, mate. I will tell
Oh,
you that.
I've seen them a few times, man. It is and it's a massive visual
Oh my
show, like,
God.
and yeah, especially when they kind of do stuff off like Downward Spiral. That's the heavy stuff. It is like,
Oh yeah,
it is
it was
bonkers. Like,
crazy. And there was this one bit. My friend Lewis and I joke about it all the time. So as I said, we smoked a little bit of weed, which was a dreadful idea. As I said, I was just so self-destructive. I was like, let's make this as scary as possible. And there was this one time I was watching, and the lights were going crazy. And what's it, Trent Reznor, is it?
Trent Reznor.
Man, that front man's insane. The energy levels of that guy, man. He was like running around, going crazy. It was
He's
oh,
he's
brilliant.
yeah he's ridiculous, and he's like, I mean, he's now like, he's an Oscar winner. He did the music for all the last couple of David Fincher films, and he did music for Soul, that Pixar film as well, himself and Atticus Ross, the Social Network.
Yeah, that soul film's like got a bit of a jazzy, like, oh my God, Maya. Come on, this way. I'm so sorry, man.
That's okay, that's quite all right.
But yeah, Nine Inch Nails was absolutely mental, man. I really enjoyed it. It was just wouldn't recommend it for a DP sufferer, really.
No, certainly not with a few puffs of weed beforehand. It would
Definitely not. Really don't
it's
recommend.
intense. It's intense.
Yeah,
Dave, I have in my notes from when we did the coaching session. You went to see Dune.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and you didn't have a good time.
not at all. I went there again, really intense. I think that's how I describe the whole experience, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, and I went to see an IMAX as well. And oh God, but weirdly enough, I've seen it since, and it's like the best. But I really love it. I think it's
It's
amazing.
incredible. Yeah.
It's groundbreaking, and Oscar Isaac's one of my favorite actors as well. He's in all of my favorite films, it seems. So he was amazing in it. Yeah, oh my god, it's just so beautiful to look at as well. It's so weird what they can do with a desert, you know?
I know,
Like,
I know. Yeah, he's Denis Villeneuve he's an incredible director. But that resonated with me a lot because when I remember going to see this was a long time ago the Tim Burton's version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So this would have been probably 2005. In fact, it was 2005. And like I remember going to see that in cinema, like, and I had been excited to go and see it. Then I developed anxiety and DP, and I went to this film, and I just was petrified, like at this film and I knew, and it wasn't for rational reasons. It's not like I was scared about like it was kind of also just being in a large dark room with a bunch of people just
yeah,
freaked me out completely. And it was like, all right, it looks like so I want to be a filmmaker, and apparently now I can't go to the cinema without having a meltdown, you know.
yeah,
So yeah, that kind of resonated with me when you told me that.
yeah. No, no, that's 100% it. Like,
Yeah,
I've no not making films or anything, but I do really love films, and even sat at home watching a film that had a bit too much of a certain thing in it or something like that, it would just spin me out. Like, say, like someone talked about cancer or something in a film, it would just trip me up, and I'd just be foggy the whole time, couldn't pay attention to it. But yeah, it
yeah.
must be devastating as a filmmaker, like being sat in a cinema, like, yeah, I don't envy you there, man. Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah, cinemas, especially as you said, I think it's like large dark room, loads of people in there, and you've just got a really loud, massive thing happening in front of you. It was
Yeah,
just so overwhelming. I really didn't enjoy
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So what did so now that you've recovered, Dave, what was it like kind of finally coming out? Actually, so first question I want to ask you is so one of the things people always ask me is when you recover, is it really getting back to normal? Do you just get back to normal?
Oh, 100%. Like, I didn't even realize. So I was at a gig the other day. I want to say like 2 weeks ago, maybe, and I had such a good time. I was playing all the music I wanted to play, people being so lovely. Anyway, I was out in the smoking area, and this kid was there. I want to say he was about like 16, 17. I just know he was there with his older brother or something. And he mentioned DP, and I was like, well, this is weird. It was the first time I thought about it in so long, like a month and a half. And I just got overwhelmed with like a sense of just like almost not nostalgia, but just like gratefulness almost. Um, and yeah, I was so grateful just to be like in normal life again. But the funny thing is, I didn't realize it before at all. Like, I was just living my life, doing stuff, you know. And ever since, it was short-lived gratefulness as well. Like, not too much time passed before I was like on stage again, and I was just like, yeah, chilling. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. I think it's literally you just do end up living your normal life. You know what I mean? Like, things just go completely back to normal. Um, I mean, the only thing different now is that I've gone through this thing that's like just taught me how to look after myself a bit more, and like kind of taught me how to let me understand myself a bit more, you know. Like, yeah, I'm grateful for like it all happening, but I'm just more grateful for the fact that of just being a normality again, you know what I mean, compared to now. And it's just so easily done, like when you just follow the rules, you know, and get back to normal. But yeah, for anybody asking that question, it's just literally like living a normal life again. It's you almost forget it happened. It's weird, like all of the weird times. Like, I look back on it, I'm just like, oh, it seems like a million years ago. It was literally like a few months back. Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
super strange, super strange. But yeah, I'm really happy not to be in the middle of that anymore.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I know you mentioned a bit briefly as well earlier, Dave, but how was the DP manual helpful in your recovery?
It was a bit of a game changer, to be fair. Like, having like like a actual set out list of things to do, and because that's what a lot of people need, I think, is when you're in that mindset where things don't make sense and you think you're more likely to have some kind of, West African brain hemorrhage than you are to be having just like a bit of an anxiety problem. Um, it, you're just not in the right mindset. It's so useful when you have someone there to just be like, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. Do this for a few months and you'll be fine. And it's so weird that the second I was like, nah, actually, I'm going to put all of my effort into just making sure this is fine. I was fine. And it's funny looking back on it now. Um, and it's foolproof as well in the sense that, not foolproof, I don't know what the right word is, but you can spend, I know I did spend endless hours looking through websites, YouTube videos, blah, 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 and all of these things. But the reason I think they're so dangerous is, number one, it reminds you that it's there. And number two, well, every video, every article, whatever, will give you five positive things to walk away from, but it will give you one negative thing. And trust me when I say the one negative thing will last a lot longer than those other five positive things do. And your book was almost like, I don't know how you'd say it, but it just didn't have any like kind of like those kind of things in it. Do you know what I mean? Like I could happily go through the whole thing and not feel more anxious than I was at the start at any point. Whereas a video, they could be talking about something and they'd mention a symptom that I haven't experienced yet, and I just know for a fact the next week I'd have that symptom all week. Do you know what I mean? Just from hearing about it. Um, so yes, I'm just gonna say like foolproof. It's like you can't. Yes, I think, and also on top of that as well, it was the Audible kind of audio book style parts of the book were essential as well. Like the pep talk whilst I was in America was a game changer. Like I was just, oh man, anytime I was stressed, I'd shove it on, and there was so many times as well I can remember, like I'd be listening to music and my enjoyment for the music just vanished, and I was like, oh no, this stressed me out. And I put on your pep talk, and I could listen to like an album afterwards and really enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Um, which is like the whole reason I wanted to like drop you that email in the first place. It's just like thank you for like putting the work in to make these things because it's so essential. And I hate to think how much more time I would have wasted without it, man. Like it was so essential for my recovery, man. And to think as well, like at the start, I wasn't even doing everything properly. As I said, I was quite self-destructive at the start, but still, even just having it there was such a better boost. And then the second I started knuckling down and actually treating it like a guideline, the way it's meant to be treated, I was fine in a matter of months, honestly. Like maybe even weeks. I can't remember. As I said, it was such a quick turnaround that I forgot I was even, I forgot all about it. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, it was 10 out of 10. Yeah, I'd rate that book.
That is good. I'm so happy to hear it, Dave. That's fantastic. I'm delighted. So I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
So advice for people with DPDR. So like there's going to be people on the channel who have there may be a couple of days or a couple of weeks into this, like whose experience might be similar to yours, going through something similar. What general advice would you have for somebody who might be watching the channel and is where you are or where you were when this first started?
Yeah. I'd say the first thing is just be patient. If you wake up every day like, right, how far along have I progressed now? You're setting yourself up to fail. Just don't think about that, because if you wake up and think about it, you've messed your day up. Do you know what I mean? You really just try your best just to go about what you're doing. If it pops into your head, then it's in there. Like, try and forget about it. Do you know what I mean? But if not, don't worry about it. Just keep going about it. But follow the guidelines in this book. They're so essential. Look after your health. Um, don't stop doing anything. Like, go out and do these things because they're distractions at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? And that's the whole point. Like, the only reason everyone's suffers with this for a prolonged amount of time, I think, just because it scares them. And if your reaction to being scared is getting depersonalized, and you're scared of depersonalization, you can see how it's a loop. You know what I mean? So you need to get to a place where you're not scared anymore, and kind of just really try and distract yourself from these things and look after yourself, and naturally over time it will just disappear. But there's no one in the hit, like, now that I'm fully recovered, I can look back in such clarity and realize that there's no way on earth I could have had this forever. It just doesn't work like that. And yeah, there's just nothing to be afraid of whatsoever, but your brain doesn't know that, and you just need to keep telling yourself that. You know what I mean? Your brain is just trying to, if your brain doesn't want you to be happy, it just wants you to be alive, so it's just constantly like gonna keep you there. So but yeah, so yeah, just like listen to the book and really go for it, and put as much effort as you can into following the guidelines, and don't do what I did and just have like a month where you're testing it, because that's a dreadful idea. That prolonged everything. So don't do that. But yeah, if your doctor says you're fine, then you're fine, basically, 100%. Like, it's hard to say during it, but that's the truth. That's their job. So yeah, I hope that's some good advice.
I think that's excellent advice. Dave, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the channel today. I'm delighted to see that you're fully recovered, and I look forward to seeing you play live someday very soon.
100%, man. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Oh, mate, it's so good to see you. Thanks for everything, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, if I'm ever in Ireland or you're over here, just vice versa, I have to get a drink sometime and catch
definitely.
up.
Oh, it's happening. Like, we're yeah. I haven't played guitar in a while, but I can. I'll see if I can remember with some 9 Inch Nails.
We can conjure up a tune, mate. 100%.
Yeah. We'll make it happen. Dave, great to chat to you, man. Thank you so much for being on the channel.
All right, cheers, man. Thank you.
Take care, man. Bye bye.